Good morning. This is RCB News, and I am Ryan Bowler. I'm going to get right down to the news at hand. I'm going to be reading a portion of an article that I read from the DailyWire in reference to a statue of George Floyd in New York City that was defaced by an actor. And after I complete reading a portion of this article, I'm going to give you my spin on what I believe this is all about. And I'm going to give you my opinion on what I believe the whole idea of this statue of this man being erected was all about. So I'm going to read this portion of the article. We're going to go right into this. The article is entitled Parks and Rec actor charged for vandalizing George Floyd statue in New York City. A struggling actor who reportedly had tiny roles on TV shows like Parks and Rec, CSI New York, and That's So Raven, has been arrested and charged for defacing a George Floyd statue in New York City. It's interesting to me that here we have an actor that's doing this. U.S. Today reported that Michael Bills, 37, was charged with criminal mischief for an incident that occurred earlier this month involving the George Floyd statue. Surveillance footage from the era showed a person on a skateboard threw gray paint on the face and base of a statue of George Floyd, according to the New York Police Department's hate crimes Twitter account. The account announced October 25th that Bills had been arrested and charged with the crime. As the Daily Wire previously reported, the statue was part of Confront Art's See Injustice exhibition, which also featured two other statues, all of which were open to the public last Friday evening. The Floyd statue was defaced with paint around 10 a.m. Sunday morning, according to the New York Police Department. There's video footage police were able to ascertain, Detective Francis Simon told CNN. Of course, CNN is going to be involved in this. They show a male ducking down under one of the statues. He then mixes something together, and as he skates away, he throws a container of paint at the statue. Volunteers quickly gathered to remove the paint. Andrew Cohen, co-founder of Confront Art, said the statue was already being cleaned by the time he arrived. And that's all I'm going to read in that portion of the article there. And you can read the rest of the article on the Daily Wire in the description box below. But first, I want to start my view off on this by simply saying my prayers for the family of George Floyd. My prayers go out to them. It's an unfortunate incident that happened, and I'm sorry that it happened. You know, unfortunately, it's an unfortunate set of events that have happened, and I'm sorry that it happened. And so my heart goes out to the family of the deceased. In no way do I support anything that is unnecessary violence. But I will say this. It is clear, first of all, based on my opinions and my studies, that George Floyd was not a saint. It's clear that he was not a saint, and it's clear that his background was not the best background. To erect, and I'm going to give you my opinion on this whole idea of erecting a statue, a monument to this man. To erect a statue and monument to him, I believe, has caused more division in the country than unity. To erect a statue of a man that clearly has a criminal record shows once again the communist insurgents, in my opinion, the communist insurgents attempt to dismantle and destroy this country. It seems evident to me that when you spend taxpayer money to create a statue of someone that was caught in the act of committing a crime, and don't get me wrong now, the crime he committed was, him dying was not, a good thing for him to have committed the crime that he committed, which was, I believe, using a fake dollar bill or fake money, whatever. But to erect a statue of this man and having a criminal record is beyond me. It makes no sense at all, except to say that those behind the scenes were purposely trying to cause more division in this country. And what's interesting is that in reference to erecting a statue of someone who has a criminal record, at the same time, we seen the radical left, such as Antifa and Black Lives Matter and other far leftist organizations with Marxist ideologies, defacing and destroying and tearing down statues and monuments of figures that were a part of this country for decades. And all of a sudden they turn them down. Some of these statues they were turned down was interesting to me. You would think, well, man, why would you tear down a statue of Abraham Lincoln or deface a statue of Abraham Lincoln? Wasn't he the one that created the Emancipation Proclamation to free the blacks? Why would you tear that down? The very person that helped free the blacks, you're tearing down that statue. And what I believe, based on my studies of communism, is that the purpose is to destroy history and erect a new history. But what I found out is this is what the communist insurgents would do in every country that they would take over. They would destroy the prior history of that country, tear down the monuments, destroy the institutions, the educational institutions, and replace it with teachings that reflected a communist ideology or a Marxist ideology. I believe that is what's happening in our country today. But because the mainstream news spins this over and over and over again as if it's a racial situation, then people are led to believe and brainwashed to believe, in my opinion, that it has nothing to do with communism or had nothing to do with Marxism, but has to do with what we call police brutality. Now, let me say this right up front. And I don't know if I've shared this in a previous video. I may have shared it in one of my earlier videos when I first started my channel. I never became a police officer, but I trained as a police officer at the Tri-C Police Academy in 2005, and I graduated in 2006. I never officially became a police officer because of my prior relationships with my ex. She wasn't too supportive of that, and I didn't want to put her through that stress, so I never pursued the career of a police officer. But having been in a police academy, I know the tactics that police have to use in terms of guns, use of force. I know about that. And that's usually prevalent in almost every state to some extent. Certain basic things are prevalent in almost every state. One of the things they taught us was the knee on the neck, the side of the neck. That is not, I'm just giving you my opinion based on my studies, research, and training as a police officer. The knee on the neck is not a deadly force use. The purpose of that is to restrain the person, to keep them from resisting. Okay, that's the purpose of that. It's designed to restrain the person, not restrict the air from their esophagus or their throat. Now, there's been some argument about, there can be argued. I'm not going to get into whether or not it contributed to George Floyd's death or whatever. That's not what I'm going to get into. My point is simply that it's not a tactic designed to kill the person. It's designed to restrain the person. Now you may ask, what's my point? My point simply is this, is that the whole, in my opinion, debacle with the officer and the erecting of the monument was all part of the plan of Black Lives Matter and Antifa to use as the basis to destroy this country. They used that as a scheme. I'm not saying that the George Floyd situation was a setup or plan, but they took advantage of that to find an excuse to cause all these to cause all this looting and rioting. That's what, in my opinion, was their excuse. Okay, because all over the country, it was ridiculous. You had other countries talking about how it was crazy. You had other countries. I cannot remember which countries these were, but I do remember in 2020, because 2020 was just hellish. But I do remember other countries hearing about this situation, this debacle with George Floyd and the police officer, and how they had been brainwashed in believing that this is a racial situation. This is a white police officer who purposely killed this black man, or killed this person because he was black. And you had George Floyd this and George Floyd that all over the place. And clearly, with this actor doing what they have done to this bus of George Floyd, clearly this shows to some extent that everybody is not on the same train that everybody else is on. Now, should he have done that? Well, that's a whole nother story. I wouldn't have done it. I don't feel a need to do it. I don't feel a need to go and put paint on it. I don't feel a need. I do what I do on YouTube, my YouTube channel. I give you my spin on YouTube. I read the news. I give you my spin, and I move on. You take it as you want it. But I don't feel the need I would have done such a thing. But what it does show is that everybody is not in agreement with siding with elevating and promoting what I believe to be criminals and putting them up on statues and pedestals and creating statues of these individuals. And at the same time, taking down statues and monuments of people who may not have been perfect, but truly were men and women of great stature, men and women of great character that helped build the country. To me, there's clearly an agenda being set. And in order to defeat the agenda or to oppose the agenda, I believe you have to expose what they're doing. And once again, this is another communist attempt to try to dismantle this country. But you have this actor saying, no, we're not going to, and he did what he did. I mean, hey, look, I wouldn't have done it like I said before, but that's my spin on that. What is your spin on this? What do you think about this? Do you think this person should have done this? You think it was wrong to throw this paint on the face of this George Floyd statue? What is your view on that? If you have any comments on that, please put your comments in the comment box below. If you like this video, press the like button, share this video, and subscribe. God bless you, and thank you all for visiting me on RCB News.